you have to be thankful that you've ever experienced the glow. And then 2, you have to remember that like there's levels to this, and at every point, like I said, you're going to, anytime you try to increase your capacity, whether it be your ability, your, anytime you're expansion, room, growth, whatever it is, anytime you're trying to increase that capacity, you always have to take into consideration, what if I fail at an attempt to increase my capacity? So you're going after, you're chasing, and you want to expand, you want to do this, but what happens if everything comes crashing back down? And you have to ask yourself that. And if you say, you know what, I would not survive, I would not be happy, then that capacity increases it for you.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. We are here. Oh, man. Dr. Spock, Dr. Prince, how are you?
Listen, I would say the best way to describe me right now is tired.
I feel it.
But you know what? But pushing through. I mean, like every entrepreneur can, has experienced this. So it's, just how it goes.
I love it. I love it. So before we get into the weeds of the conversation, could you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and how you're continuing to literally every single day change lives?
All right. So I'm Dr. Prince. I can be summed up as a philanthropist, entrepreneur, and pharmacist, where I'm an independent pharmacy, CEO of Premier Pharmacy and Wellness Center. Also have a nonprofit as well. I dabble in investments and a few other different things. And sometimes I kind of lose count as to how many things I'm actually doing. But I think that's the beautiful part about life. Every day I'm waking up trying to serve my community and see how we can guide our community to greater health.
Love that. Love that. Such a calm spirit. It's probably the fatigue, I'm sure.
I think generally this is me. Like people always ask me like, why do my tone is like so low?
Mellow.
I started working in the pharmacy at age 16, where everybody's like yelling and this, and wow. I'm like, this is just my voice. I mean, I can't change it. So,
no, for sure.
I mean, now at 35, I'm still here.
I love what you said about my voice. I can't change it. You have such a premier and prominent and powerful voice within our community here in Charlotte. I guess my first question, I have so many. What continues to motivate you or inspire you to continue to get up and keep going?
I would just have to say, that's a really good question. And I think that a lot of times we don't really think about that. Sometimes if you sit down and you think too long, you'll stay there.
Exactly.
And so I would say that I know that every day there's people that need me. There's also people that continue to tell me how I've impacted their lives. And for me, it's definitely something that I never thought or never really imagined that I would be doing. I think that I'm just somewhere beyond my wildest dreams. When I started this journey 5 years ago, I simply did it solely based off of the fact that the community needed this pharmacy. Wow. And I remember like logging into like Instagram or social media, and like the first time I actually had went viral, which was the first day that we opened the pharmacy. Wow. And it's crazy. It was kind of like a strategic marketing move as far as like I wanted to pay homage to my alma mater, Florida A&M University, which was founded on October 3rd, 1887. Mm-hmm. So on October 3rd, 2015, I opened Premier Pharmacy and Wellness Center. And started off with something like I invited like 2 weeks before. And everyone who knows me know that like I'm an Aries, so I can only think of one. I'm one thing. Like I know we were supposed to record earlier, and I knew I had to reach out to you because I knew that it wasn't going to work after I looked at the calendar. Mm-hmm. However, I was focused on something else, and I just could not get to it.
Oh snap!
And,
well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. But but that's how things are. And I remember when I was on this journey. And I invited, like I was sitting at a J. Cole concert, and, we just are like rapping, and I'm typing up this this memo inside of like notes, I notes. And I'm telling everyone that I'm just like, I decided to like venture out on this journey. I just want everybody to believe, like, you know, to support me and believe in me. And I wanted to invite them to see the pharmacy for the first time on October 3rd. And like, so I invited 60 of my closest like family and friends, and they all came and supported. And of course, amongst that was some rattlers, and they tweeted some things out. Then the school got a hold to it. And by the time that I went to a black tie event that I was like hosting as a thank you for coming situation, like it went viral.
Hold on. So a black tie event that was the thank you for coming? Gosh, who are my friends?
You know, it's just like, you know, as black people, we set the standards, like, you know.
Exactly.
And so with that, like it went viral, and I was just like, wow, this was a really great decision to start this on, you know, October 3rd. And the thing was, like, what I was doing to me was I was just like simply opening a pharmacy. And at that age, that time I was 29, and I received my doctorate at 24. I worked at Rite Aid for 5 years, and like I did management, I did all these different things. And so like really pharmacy is like all I knew, you know?
Exactly.
And before that, I mean, I started working at an independent pharmacy at age 16. So like, I mean, that's the only career I've ever had. That's all I've ever done. Right. Wow. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I mean, I'm just doing like, I'm going to this big box drugstore every day. This isn't where it's at, because at that point I kept having this like recurring dream that I was graduating over and over and over again. And every time that I would like get up to receive my diploma or whatever, like I would miss my name. And I just kept having this dream, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what does this mean? So one day I decided to Google it, and it was like, well, usually this means that you've mastered where you are. And so I knew it was time for me to move on. And I'm just sitting
good,
here.
Dr.
Like,
yeah, you are. Something is brewing here in this conversation.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And I thought I was going to lead a professional pharmacy. And what a lot of people don't know is I really had no vision or plan to open a pharmacy. I was just having lunch with a friend, and I'm thinking like, you know, I'm just really tired of doing this. I don't really know what's next for me, but maybe I want to be a flight attendant so I can like relax a little bit, travel the world, pay my student loans, pay my mortgage, and, you know, go on about my business.
Just a simple life.
Yeah. And until I find out what I really want to do. And so then I started to think about the patients in the community, like all the people who I had impacted, and like how I would miss them. And like I really had this connection with these patients. And I'm like, see, it's not that I don't really like being a pharmacist. It's really, I just don't like how I'm practicing life and how I'm like doing my career. And so I decided, I was like, you know what, if I had a pharmacy, this is how it would be. It would be like community focused. It would be this, it would be that. And then within that same sentence, like a light bulb went off. And I was like, if I could say if, I mean, I can, you know? Wow. And so that's when I started like reaching out to my friends. So my first store was 100% like invested by friends, no financing, no banking, no anything like that, you know. So put together a presentation for my friends. And
you've got good friends.
Well, a lot of us got good friends. We just don't know, and we don't ask. So, you know, you have to sometimes, like, you have to ask, you know, and you have to let them know. It's levels to it. You know, you have to really show them that you're serious. I mean, I put together this like presentation. I really, you know, dug deep. I was working 12-hour days. I was spending about 6 hours a night researching and doing all these different things. And I put together this presentation to do to my friends to present. I presented in my living room on Apple TV. I, you know, ordered dinner, gave them wine, you know, all the good stuff. And I put this proposal together, you know, never done business before in my life. I just, you know, this is something that I was like, you know, passionate about. And I really had this idea, and I had a plan A, a B, and a C, you know, and I'm just thinking like, you know, this is going to happen, you know, at this point. But still, I'm thinking I'm really just opening a pharmacy because that's what I know. And this is what I wanted to do for the community. But to bring it back, by the end of that night, when that tweet went viral, and I seen all the comments of how big it was to the community, because I guess pharmacy is something that's so like heavily regulated and respected, how big this was to them that I was opening this pharmacy. And to be honest with you, it was very overwhelming because, I mean, I really wasn't prepared to be anyone's, hero or anyone's like, mentor, role model, all these different things. Yeah. And I tell people that's like something that you just, you have to adopt. Like when you get to that level, that's something that you have to do. And another thing that I always say is like at that time I was Martez, like, and the community made me Dr. Prince, so that was like the respect.
Talk a little bit more about that. Like at that point you were Martez, but the community made you Dr. Prince.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I graduated at 24, so I was comfortable with being called Martez. I went by Martez. I mean, I was fine with that.
And at that time, you were still a doctor. So
yeah, I still had my doctorate degree. Wow. Like that's
crazy.
But but I went by, just Martez, But then as I started to do more and more, as I was mentioning earlier, like, I mean, I've done like, I would say, I mean, a lot of publications, like a lot of like, press, a lot of different things, like a lot, and which was all weird for me. And I remember like the first time someone even like reached out to me and they wanted to give me an award. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why? Like for what? Like, I don't understand. Like, I mean, you giving me an award for doing like my job or doing something that I think is necessary, and it's a little weird and it's a little awkward. And I used to tell my friends all the time, like, I'm like, so the first like maybe like 4 awards that I got, I would just show up to the dinner or whatever it was, get my award and go home because it really wasn't important to me at all. It was just like I just didn't understand why like they were doing this, like, and so my friends would get mad because I didn't invite them. And I'm like, I didn't want to like interrupt your schedule to come do this thing that I think is like kind of vain, and it's like weird to me. And so, but as time went on, I started to embrace and understand what it meant and what came along with the territory and what I had to do.
There's so much packed.
There's so much.
Everything that you said. It's interesting because the first time we connected was, I remember it, we were at the Harvey B. Gantt Center. I can't remember the event. It was my first event that I went to at the Harvey B. Gantt Center here in Charlotte. And it was a panel discussion with the brothers that opened up the barbershop. And I got up and spoke about just education. And then me and you connected after briefly because my parents were there. And it's interesting because at that time, I didn't know who you were. And then through the community, I'm like, oh, snap. Like, and then I see the rise. I see the development. I see the impact within our community. And it's interesting because you see somebody in passing, but you never know how much of an inspiration that person becomes, as you follow their journey. And then, I was seeing you with Oprah and all of the different things that you were doing, but so much packed in your journey, right? Oh. I've never heard someone get a PhD at 24 years old. Then right after that, working at 16, right after that, 24, and you were going. And I think so many times people highlight the story of the professional, of the pharmacist, but who's the person and when do you take time for Martez instead of Dr. Prince?
And I think that's like, and that's a struggle with everyone, and especially those who reach like a certain level of what we call success. Because I still think that success is defined by, it's a personal definition, and I think that you can ultimately describe success as when you meet that image that you, or that life that you've created in your head, like, it's the life that we all have this vision of, like when we wake up and we open our eyes and how we see the sun hit the window and, how we feel, what we do on a daily basis, how we're dressed, how we look, all those different things. It's like, it's a moment of like a glow, right? And I think that that's like when you've reached success, when you're able to live that life, when you're able to live within the glow.
Exactly.
And so
I like that.
I would say that, so by some people's standards, or, by my own standards, I wouldn't necessarily say that I have reached the success that I want to reach.
Wow.
And that's because I think that once again, it has nothing to do with accomplishments or accolades. It's more so about an overall well-being.
Okay.
And so, so I would say that, for me, I think that life is like I have, you go through so many different growth phases and stages and different things like that, where some things that matter, and some things just change, like the way that you look at, material things and different things like that, and like, how you value your time, And so I would say that as you go through all those different changes, like at some times you reach a point where you have more like, free time or spare time that you're doing all the self-care, all those things that you love. And, so for me, because I know that my life is actively growing, I have to insert those moments when I can. So like, so this past weekend I celebrated my birthday, and once again,
happy belated.
Thank you.
Belated.
And so what I created something called the Emerald Club, and I created this like where I invited like 50 of my friends to come out and celebrate. And I created the Emerald Club because this was like a group of 50 people that have reached my personal Emerald Club status. And whenever you're like thinking about a rewards program, it's always like you go to your bronze, gold, silver, all these different things, but usually the top is the Emerald Club. And I say this because those are the people that have helped me to get to where I am. Those are people who have maybe shared a moment with me where I was like extremely stressed out or feeling like I was just like, have reached my ends, and like that person has helped, fuel me to keep me going. Wow. All those different things. So like being able to celebrate with people like that is like a moment to recharge me, and so those are the kind of things that make me happy. Those are the kind of things that make me feel like, what, I can do this. I can now go to the next level. I can put more effort, more power into this. And like I always tell people, like you do nothing alone. You like you always pull strength from others. Like you always, whether it be their words, their inspiration. Sometimes it's just simply admiring or looking, but you always pull that energy from others. And so for me personally, that's how I take care of myself.
Wow.
So, okay, you're awesome. You really are. One thing that you said, so I'm going to go back a little bit in the beginning of the conversation. So one of the things that you said in the beginning was that you had that dream that kept reoccurring, and then you looked it up, and then it was said that meant that you've mastered where you are. So I do believe that a lot of times we're shown the things that we need in a way that we can understand and comprehend so we can do what we're supposed to do. Where were you at that time what had you mastered?
I think I had mastered a lot of people's idea of success, because like I think that your first level is just like the way that humans are. Like you first identify success with materialistic things, and I was blessed to come out of school at 24, making 6-figure salary. And so I was able to get a lot of those materialistic things out of the way early. And that was important because like I love that I did that, because a lot of people really identify or they base their success off of those materialistic things. And because I was able to have the car, I was able to have, money saved, I was able to have the home, I was able to have all those things, you then realize that life is way bigger than those things, and they mean like, you appreciate them, you're happy to have them, but life is so much more. And I think at that point you start to dig deeper, you start to look for meaning, you start to look for, why am I here? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't reach that level until they're in their 60s or whatever. They work so long, and then now they have their home. Now they have their luxury car. Now they have all those different things. It's crazy. And because I was able to reach that, I think I was able to think differently. I was able to to dig deeper, and I realized that, what? My passion is community. It's not necessarily pharmacy, it's community. Like I love, one of the recurring themes this weekend that friends kept saying is I know how to bring people together, and I think that that's one of my gifts. And so by me having a pharmacy, I'm able to really serve the community in the capacity that I actually see that this is like, my passion, and this is why I'm here.
Wow.
I think that's so amazing because it's the idea that, like, if you're in a space where you're feeling like, why am I here? And I'm no longer satisfied with those things that were bringing me joy before, that I thought were going to bring me joy, that potentially that means that you've mastered what you were supposed to do in that season. Like, that's really interesting.
It is. It's a very profound perspective.
Yeah.
And I even love what you said about there's essentially levels to success.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that a lot of people base their whole success off of materials.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting with that perspective because right after college, I had the opportunity of working for Johnson & Johnson and with a six-figure salary as well. So I think a lot of the things that I purchased, and I went through that material phase.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's more so of a fulfillment to serve people. It's a fulfillment to change lives and take people in and create that community within everything that I do. But I'm interested to hear, you talked about like meaning of life. What is your meaning of life?
Well, I would have to say that my meaning of life is, it's really just like, it's finding that glow, that it's finding that glow and understanding that you go in and out of the glow and it's okay. And that's just life cycles. I mean, you're going to go in and out of things. You're going to, that's the thing, and that's why you see people, they will rise, they will fall, and it's because of the fact that you have to realize that you go in and out of the glow, and you reach certain levels, and you are, you're making certain money, you're doing certain things, but remember, like every time you're going to the next level, you're going to sometimes have to step out of the glow so that you can get to the next level. And when you get in, the glow may be brighter, but you have to realize that you don't always just stay in there, and I think that like even myself, like, so I've, like I said, I've been a pharmacist my whole entire life, and I, most of the time my day consists of me doing like admin stuff, doing like growing my company, like doing a lot of different things, like, or meeting people, like spending, networking, doing deals, closing deals. Like that's what my day consists of. It really doesn't consist of me actually practicing what we call pharmacy, However, my office is at the pharmacy. And the reason why it's at the pharmacy is because like I have a connection with the community and the people. So my door is glass, like, so when the patients walk in and walk by, they could come to the door. I talk to them. I do this. All those different things, because like, that's like, that's my space, Exactly. But however, like at any moment, if I see something that needs to get done, I do it, So I, like these last 5 weeks have been crazy, like doing vaccinations and, doing all those different things. So like, we all hustle. We all do that. And that's what I mean by sometimes like people get inside the glow and they think they're not supposed to do that anymore. They're not supposed to do this anymore. And that's when they start to dwindle down, and it doesn't work out for them, like I would never ask anyone on my team or anyone that works for me to do something that I would not want to do. So, exactly. And I've always I've always valued that. And I mean, so if I will take out the trash, I will do this, I would do that, I would do a lot of things, like, I would even do more than I would ask you to do, and I think that that's where you have to have that mentality in order to be able to maintain the glow. So like, you don't have to always stay in it, but you want to just maintain it, and you want to, be able to kind of orbit around it, go in and out and experience that.
In your opinion, I'm interested in hearing your advice for people that may have experienced glow, whether it's a dim glow or a very bright glow. But what is your advice for that person that is going out of their glow right now? How do they operate within the season that it's not bright, so that the next season where it is brighter can come?
You have to be thankful that you've ever experienced the glow. And then 2, you have to remember that like there's levels to this, and at every point, like I said, you're going to, anytime you try to increase your capacity, whether it be your ability, anytime you're expansion, room, growth, whatever it is, anytime you're trying to increase that capacity, you always have to take into consideration, what if I fail at an attempt to increase my capacity? So you're going after, you're chasing, and you want to expand, you want to do this, but what happens if everything comes crashing back down? And you have to ask yourself that. And if you say, you know what, I would not survive, I would not be happy, then that capacity increases it for you. You have to go if you want to, measure. But you have to remember that even if you fail, you can get up and do it all over again. That's why the phoenix is celebrated. The phoenix, it goes into ashes and it rises again. And that's like one of the most beautiful things that you've ever could see. And usually when you rise, it's like even better than the first time.
Exactly.
But you have to understand that this comes with that life. This comes with that. You give up things, and you're going to have to. Like a lot of times people don't really understand that, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 29 as far as like this entrepreneur journey. I remember when I first started, I'm thinking like, what do they mean by the fact that you don't, you work more as an entrepreneur than you do,
Not literally.
As a employee? Like, what do they mean by that? Because I'm not experiencing that. And then it happened. Then it happened. But then I understood. I understood. Like there was times where I wanted to. There's times I wanted to go home and and rest after a long day, but I had to go out and network because people don't understand that. Like that's why entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Because there's a certain level of grind, there's a certain level of personality that you have to develop, and it comes along with the territory. So sometimes, like when you want to, like it's work, and so that's why, like this past weekend, and I had a celebration with my friends. It was amazing to me because, like, I have events and like black tie things all the time, but people don't really understand that. I have those things, but that's work for me. I have a foundation. I'm representing this, but now I can go and it's really a birthday celebration for me. So for me, It's more like it's the night off.
Exactly.
And I get to enjoy myself with my closest friends who will always protect me and make sure that I'm good, and you start to think and move around like that, and that's why it's important that when you take on this entrepreneurship thing, it's sacrifice. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of things that you may want to talk about that you can't talk about. There, you can't just tweet the first thing that comes to your mind or, do all these things. And people don't understand that. And they say, well, if I can't be myself, then I don't want to be, I don't want to be silenced. Well, then that's why this isn't for you. And you have to understand that. And just because you don't get to talk about those things like, on Twitter or whatever, that doesn't mean that you don't care. That doesn't mean that you don't share a certain opinion.
There's places for that, though.
There's that, it's just like, you just understand that my life and my words are bigger than just me. If I could ruin the livelihood of everyone who works for my company because people don't want to support you anymore, and now all your employees are without a job.
Wow.
And people don't understand that. And that's the weight that CEOs or entrepreneurs carry that people don't really understand. And you have to be ready for that if you take on that, on that role.
We're going to go on a commercial.
Welcome back, guys. We are still here with Dr. Prince. This is an amazing
I feel
conversation.
like there's a lot of times, there's a lot of people so we've done 40 podcasts in the last 3 weeks with guests. And there's not a lot of times where you come across someone that is like you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, how some people just have, I don't know,
Yeah. Which
like,
is so interesting because he's so calm and like
yeah,
chill in demeanor, but then like he starts talking and it's like I'm like taking notes.
Literally. And before, I guess we're going to switch it up. We're going to spice things up a little bit. Before that, I guess because you're still fairly young as well, 35 years old, you know, been in entrepreneurship 5-6 years, you know, started working at 16. You know, where did you learn these perspectives? Like this heightened intellectual thinking, but it's not even just book smart. It's like awareness. It's like an awareness of meaning and nirvana, and it's just different. Where did you, I guess, learn this?
You know, to be honest with you, I really don't know.
Okay.
My dad actually asks me this all the time. My dad, like, he loves to come and visit me, and he'll stay like for a month or whatnot.
Where's your family?
So everyone's still located in Florida.
Okay.
I now have a sister that lives here in Charlotte, but for the most part, my family is like, you know, we all get together like. Well, I usually get together with my parents a lot more than like, you know, my siblings, but we usually have these big family functions like at least like 2 to 3 times a year that we all come together. We have a huge family, but we are really, really close, like, you know. And so, but we have conversations like, so my dad, we're having this conversation and I'm talking to him just like, you know, how we're talking. And my dad just asked me, he's like, you know, where do you get this from? Like, where do you, and I really don't know. It's just like something that, I don't know. I just like been like, just blessed to grasp things like a little differently and to like look at things a little, you know, differently than a lot of people. And I guess it really took me a long time to really understand, like, this is who I am.
Exactly.
You know, and I think like the best part is like when you start to embrace that. And I think that the biggest thing that can give you those moments is like really pulling back and understanding that solitude, that alone time. I would say that I spent like the year from, you know, people don't really understand like really what entrepreneurs go through. Like, it's like, you know, they see all these like great and these positive things. Like, I mean, remember like, you know, I was being tweeted by like Baller Alert. I was on all these like different blogs and stuff like that. And the crazy thing that people don't really understand is like, I really didn't really care at the moment. Like, I'm trying to make this work. I'm putting in the work. Like, I have to do this. I can't really understand like what this is, you know, I'm just trying to grind. But what ends up happening is, you know, you get to those moments like I talked about where you can like go back and you can really pull from all those different things and all that energy to fuel you for the next thing. And I think that as I got to experience more people, I got to understand like personalities. I got to understand energies and stuff like that. Then I started to realize that I started to just like to be different, care about certain things more, care about certain things less, let it go. I started to accept certain things, to decline certain things. And like, you know, that's what it was. Like, I'll tell you, because I remember connecting with you at that event, and I seen you, and I think we lost touch, and eventually you popped back up on Instagram, and I seen some things that you were speaking, and I was like, you know, I admired it, and I was like, this is, I like what he's doing. I want to connect, and that's the thing. A lot of people are doing things, and it's okay. But you have to make sure that you're doing things for the right reason. You have to really be able to see, or, you know, people need to be able to feel the energy and the passion behind it. And if you do it for the right reasons, there's so many great things that will follow.
Yeah.
Like, I tell people that, like, you know, when I opened the pharmacy, I wanted to be community focused. And so I started simply, you know, doing things in the community, which then like gained me the reputation that I actually have, which also, of course, increased my business. You know, I mean, we were going from like, we were increase in business 100, 200, 300%, like every year, and building relationships. And it was mostly all through relationships, Also, like even just the whole Oprah experience, that was all based off of some things that I did in the community, like things that caught her attention, Wow. So if I had never done those things, and this was 5 years later, so my whole sole purpose, mission, and passion while I was doing this remained consistent even 5 years later, which allowed me that opportunity.
It's so crazy because so today we were filming with Dateline NBC, me and shout out to Greg Jackson. And it was interesting because he was talking about the same thing. So he created something 5 years ago, and now he's seeing the fruits of his labor from it. Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting. A lot of people don't really understand entrepreneurship or community work because they are the 7-day protesters, where they're out there for 7 days marching, but they're not willing to put in the actual time within the community. And you've done that. You continue to essentially show up for the community. You continue to pour, and you continue to impact our community, which is so amazing and inspiring. It's really inspiring. And, I guess one last question that I have, and before we shift it up, is when you talk about, you've talked a lot about finding your glow. We've defined the glow. We've talked about these different levels of success. But when you think about your work, you serve a lot of people. You're always essentially on call. Mm-hmm. So you're needed by a lot of people. But as you reflect on the different things in your life, where are some areas that you believe that you need some assistance or support?
Yeah, and that's something that I work on because of the fact that, I'll tell you this, when you have been disappointed mm-hmm. so many times over and over again, it's really hard sometimes for you to connect with people, and it was a lesson that I had to learn about the connecting with people and different things like that. And so like one of my biggest things is delegating, So I'll tell you this, I've been without an assistant now for about 2 years. And it's crazy because of the magnitude and the number of things that I actually do on a daily basis and have going on. It's, I definitely need my assistant, but it's one of those things that it's kind of like, that's like what happens when you are continuously disappointed. You create these like trust issues with people. And I think that for me, I'm all about protecting my space. Yes. I'm all about protecting like me. And so the thing that I love about a lot of things that I do is you'll find me spending a lot of time in private, with close company and different things like that, because that's where I'm protected. That's where I feel, because you have to realize that people are people. And there's times I'm telling you and it's crazy because the thing is, I don't really talk about it's so crazy, and I hate saying this because it sounds like, you really think you have a lot going on, or you really it can come off a certain way to a certain people. And that's another thing that I realized too, is that only people that would be offended, are the people that not don't really have anything going on, and I'm telling you, I've had cops come to my job because someone was impersonating me in Florida, and I used to be very, very heavy into social media, posting a lot and different things like that. And now I really scaled back how I post, just because of that particular incident, and a few other things too. But people don't really understand what comes with the territory of when you become like something that goes like viral or like, you know, a few different times or all those different things. It's crazy humans out there. And then there's also so you have to protect yourself from that. So you have to kind of like shield how you live your life, you know, and you want to make sure that you are protected, because at that point, you know, that was a whole crazy situation. I'm like, this person could come up to the pharmacy. I wouldn't know who they are, but they definitely know who I am. But like, they basically, like, everything that the, you know, this cop was telling me. The crazy thing is, like, it's important to be who you are, and those who know you know who you are. And so when these cops from Florida called the cops here in Charlotte, they're like, no, we know Dr. Prince.
Right,
like, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to let him know what's going on, this whole situation, you know. But those are the crazy things, like, that people don't really get to experience or understand, because, like, you know, there's certain things that you're so busy living your life and doing things that actually mean something to you, that, you know, you experience those different things and you keep it moving, you know. So there's a lot of different, like, dark periods that you actually go through as an entrepreneur that people don't really understand, you know. And I think that when that incident happened, that was one of the things that happened in this, like, span of time. But I think that was a message, like, from God, showing me and telling me that I needed to be more protective of who I was and who I actually allowed to see me 100%. You know.
We're gonna go on a commercial.
Welcome back. That was our last commercial break. We're still here with Dr. Prince, and we're gonna switch it up a little bit.
Let's go.
So in the middle of the table, you'll see a red box.
Okay.
In that box are questions, and I would like for you to take the red box, pick a question out of the red box, read the question, and answer it, please.
All right. So what is one topic that you do not like talking about because you aren't sure how you feel about it? Let's see.
I'm actually interested in this answer.
Me too. I don't know what he's going to say.
It's crazy. I don't know. This goes back to the whole filtered life. You know? So it's usually a lot of things. So I usually like to see questions like before I do an interview or something, because I like want to know, like, no, we're not talking about that. But at the same time, the best interviews are the ones that just, like, when the questions just come you know, spontaneously. I would.
As you're thinking,
go ahead.
So the overall premise, because we really didn't talk about it right before the show.
Like, why you're here.
So the overall premise of our show is to be able to bring people like yourself on and bring them in and pull the curtain back to really see the person. Because I think that there's a lot of podcasts out there that focus a lot on strategy, focus on, hey, can you teach me how you became the pharmacist? What were the strategies that you used to do this or to do that? But a lot of this today was real deal life education. So we want to be able to pull the curtain back and really hear from you, not the brand, not the professional. Now, all of that is a part of you, but it's not you. We want to hear the conversations that you would have with the Emerald 50.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be more so about.
This is good.
You know, I'm unsure about a lot of things. But, I would have to say that it's more so. there's a lot of times I'm like, I see all these like controversial topics and everything like that. And, and I'm always on the fence about them. And I'm like, I see people, like they'll give like relationship advice and they are like single, they're not single, all these different things. Or like, people talking about like what makes like, a great relationship, there are relationship goals, there are all these different things. And I think that, so usually I stray away from questions like that. And more so because it's like, it can become so controversial, like, or so like, someone can ask you a question back and you're like, I'm not prepared to answer that. Like, I don't really know yet. I'm still understanding. I'm still trying to process like, and I think and people have to understand that sometimes it's okay for you not to know, that you actually get to know yourself and you grow and evolve, especially like when you're doing so much, you're growing and evolving daily. And until you're at a consistent spot where you can understand exactly like, what you are.
This is a very politically correct answer. I love it.
I
love it. I see me on the other side because I'm like real particular with certain things.
When I'm ruffling no feathers. It's okay. That's completely okay. Yeah. I get it.
And it's, it's like, like, you just not, you're like, I don't know. Like, people, I think just like you said, there's so many people giving so much expert advice on so many different like things. And it's just like, it just becomes sometimes like draining. And then also you want people to understand, like, I think that you should fully embrace and know, like, you got to know who you are before you know what you want, and so a lot of times, like, so I hate like people ask me questions about like my personal life, and I usually
you just like I'm not doing that.
He said, I love it.
It's or I always say like it's just one of those things, like it gets to be so controversial and so crazy and chaotic that you're like, I'm not gonna debate you guys online about that.
I love it. I
like what you did there.
I love what you did there. Smart move. So I guess my question for you, kind of shifting subjects, is, there's a lot of people, and people ask me this all the time, which is interesting, that are the leaders. We're the leaders, we're the community servants, sometimes we're the activists, or sometimes we're standing up for causes, right? But a lot of times people don't recognize that maybe we get our fuel from other people, or maybe we have a representation in our mind of what we would want to envision, maybe as a married couple, or maybe as a business owner, or maybe as just a human being in general. So when you think about your role models, or these representations that are in your mind, who are you going after for? Who are you modeling yourself after?
And it kind of goes back to this question. I mean, like, to be honest with you, it changes so much because you really, and this is exactly like a prime example of what I mean. Like, you go through so many different phases of life of like, you could feel like today I can feel like I've reached my level of success and I'm good. And tomorrow you can say, you know what, I feel like I can get more. I can do more. And now you may be pulling from different people, from different role models. And when people ask you, like, where, or people ask me, like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And when I hear that question, of course, because like I think of life as a whole. And so it's really hard for me to pinpoint and say, like, what do you mean? Like, are you talking about what do I see myself in my career? What do I see myself in my personal life?
That's true.
What do I see myself here?
It's a loaded
because
question.
like, and so because I see my life as like, as a whole, as how I live it, like as a whole, and when I think to myself, like, how, I don't know. My life, I guess now it's like, it's not defined as like my career, as this is like, because like my life is like who or what makes me, and so therefore, it changes. Like it changes, depends on like what it is, like, or what I'm, afterwards. Like, for instance, I could say that who's my role model for matching energy? Like it would have to be Oprah. And that was because, and honestly, before that experience, I never thought that, I didn't quite understand what it meant or what, I didn't have that thought at first, but like, working with her on the whole project, like seeing how her team worked with her, and then meeting her the day of and understanding and feeling that energy, that like vibration. And it's just like, you know what? I like to live my life in this sense of like peace and calm. Know who you are, know the fact that, like it's okay to say no. It's okay. Like, you can be kind, but you don't have to be nice.
That's a deep perspective. Like, I think what I heard from this, right, is when I asked that question, you said pretty much it was a loaded question because there are a lot of pieces, right? Like you kind of gave an exact example, matching energy, that's that person. But I think, that's so deep to me because I think a lot of times we have one role model for everything, but we don't break ourselves down. We are whole people, or we base our whole lives based upon where do you want to be in 10 years, Kyle? I want to be this place financially or this. So I base my whole life off of just modeling one person without being mindful of their energy or mindful of their relationship or mindful of their peace internally or mindful of their health and their wellness. I think that's so good.
Because you likely take on other areas where you may not want what they're offering.
Exactly. So I like what you said.
And I think that like, we all like, we'll see like successful people and we'll say, oh, I want to be like this person. But you really don't understand like all the components of that person. And if you really had to like, quote unquote, walk a mile in that person's shoes, you really wouldn't understand.
It's so
like,
deep.
Because it's like even you say, okay, this is my financial role model. Okay, well, they didn't reach that level of success without it draining from maybe their personal relationships or from their kid, the relationship they have with their children, or like you just never know what else got them to that point.
Yeah, and I think that that's like one of the biggest things that happened with the Kirk Franklin situation recently. And that was huge because it's like, people, once again, someone said, this is who I want to be, but forgetting that that person is human.
Right.
Exactly.
And the fact that, that person gets angry, that person gets upset, that person gets, this. And that's why I think that it's like, it's different. Like, when and I think for me, that's why it's so hard for me to like give a direct answer sometimes, is because like my mind goes like, I want like, well, what do you mean? What do you
What
want?
is the real question?
Yeah, what is the question?
You're a thinker.
But one of the things that like when I experienced the whole Oprah experience that I realized was that, you could be, once again, you could be kind and you don't have to be nice, and you could here she is, this person who's like well respected, well loved, but still has these hard boundaries. And so and that was like, something that was life changing for me from that perspective for different reasons than what other people would have thought it was. There was like little things like that I took away. Or there's things like, you may see someone who, dress a certain way, and you say, this is my role model for how I want to present or how I want to carry myself. Or this is like, when I look at people, it's like it's an energy thing. I look at how people, the vibe that they give off, the vibration that they give off. Like, that's the biggest thing. And especially these days, because like people really truly have the ability to be whoever they want to be. Just depends on how good their skills are.
So let me ask you a direct question. I think it's direct. We'll see. So we talked about mastery, which I love. In this season, what is when do you think you'll get that dream again? Like, what are you working to master, or what will that mastery look like in the season that you're in now? That will then, maybe you'll get that dream again and say, okay, I've mastered this season and now I'm ready for the next one.
You know, I think that in this line in which I'm in now, I think since I found like my passion with community, it doesn't necessarily mean that like I've already like kind of transitioned from the role of like being, you know, your like pharmacist, which I still have like patients that will come in and like, or people that will come in, they want me to do like their vaccine, they want me to do this, they want me to do that. And of course, like I'm going to do it because like one of the things I realize is that regardless, I don't care how many companies you have, what you have, you work for the people, and you have to realize that. And so, you know, and plus if it makes someone day that I do that, then I'm going to do that, you know. And I think that, so sometimes I go through those moments of like, okay, so how long am I going to actually be able to like be the CEO of this place, of actually like, you know, overseeing the operations and all those different things and whatnot. Because of course there's like so many other things that I like do and I love, but it all ties back to the community. And so, yeah, so that's one of the things that like, even like to this day, or, you know, I go in and out of.
It's like a matter of time before that season, maybe.
Yeah. And I think that that's, you know, it's just one of those things that you think about and you're like, I don't really want that. You know, yeah.
Would you be ready for that part to be over or not really? Where you're like, now you're not beyond that, but like maybe there's something else that prevents you, like your time is maybe pulled somewhere else where it prevents you from being able to do that. Would you want that or not really?
No, like I really love being involved in what actually happens, like how things are shaped. Because another thing is you don't, this is one of those things why, like, one of the reasons why I believe that like I receive like so many blessings is because I stay firm to my mission and what I want to do. And so a lot of times, like when you relinquish that part of you and like, say for instance, if it's about the money and you sell your company to someone else or whatever, the whole point of Premier Pharmacy and Wellness Center is to have a place that is curated for us. You know, I mean, from the time you walk in to the music that you listen to while you're waiting for your prescription, or, you know, there's lots of people that look like you. There's like, you know, unapologetically black like things that you can purchase there. It's just like it's a space that really has you in mind. And I believe there's so many spaces that we go to that are so vital to life and that's never created for us. And I think that, you know, once you sell those things, it becomes like one of those situations where it's like, okay, well, we're going to keep it for a moment and then until you get a little bit further away, and then everything changes, and then once again we no longer have a place that's ours, that's curated for us. And I think that that's why, like, you know, it continues to work out for me, and I get blessed with like so many other opportunities and so many, you know, other things, like, you know, because like I'm really big on that whole thing, which is another reason why I connected my foundation. Like, if anything, I would eventually end up like working 100% with the foundation because I love doing that work, but it's part of, you know, the Premier brand.
This has been
amazing, to say the least.
Amazing. And I think the same feeling, I can't relate to it because I don't know what you felt, but the same feeling that you felt when you were in the presence of Oprah is the feeling that I feel now. And I'm definitely sure that Kiana feels that same feeling. It's amazing conversation. But I'm going to do one last rapid fire exercise, so you're not going to have as much time to think about this one. All right. So I'm going to say a word, and just one word, and then I just want you to respond with the first word that you think when you hear that word. Okay. We're going to start with something easy. So, glow.
Bright.
Mission.
Passion.
Community.
Love.
Sacrifice.
Success.
Success. That's the last word, success.
Success, happiness.
Fulfillment.
Complete.
This is Dr. Martez Prince, right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is Around the Way podcast, and we'll see you guys next episode.